everyday counts and stuff. The first thing is everyday counts round 7 is coming up. So that will start, round 6 will be wrapping up at the end of this calendar year. And round 7 will begin on January 1st. So round 6 is wrapping up and round 7 will begin. I do not have any word on what the initiatives are that are being advanced to everyday counts round 7. So I keep getting questions about that, and I'm sorry, but I do not have the answers. I cannot control that process. It's a very involved process where we reach out on a national level to our industry and other organizations and get their feedback and their input. It's a very, very extensive vetting process involving our headquarters office and industry and everybody on the planet. So I can't tell you when that will be finished. The next thing is there will be a summit, of course, every round of Everyday Counts, we have a summit. So there will be a summit. Look for more information on that. It will probably be in, I'm thinking early December. That's how it sounds. That's how the last one was. It will be virtual. So we can expect a lot of people to attend the summit. And then it will be followed by a New Jersey caucus where we discuss the initiatives and the barriers to implementing them and the good reasons why we would want to implement them and even if we want to implement them. So that will be after the summit. We try to make it immediately following the summit because we want to have the summit fresh in our minds when we get to the caucus. And that's the story with that. The National STIC Network meeting was held on June 1st. New Jersey was the focus state this time. So Brandy did an excellent and extremely informative and focused presentation on some of the initiatives going on in New Jersey, like the Let's Go workshop that was held last September, and the communications plan, which is excellent. If you haven't seen the communications plan, you should go look at it. And the drone program, which is an initiative that NJDOT is a national leader on, started very early, really making good use of the drones to assist with its program. So if you have not seen that and you're interested in seeing it, I will put the link to the recording of the presentation in the chat. And please take a look at that if you missed it. It was excellent. Thank you so much, Brandy, for doing that, and Mike for making opening comments. And I don't know if Robert is here, Clark, but Robert, also thank you to you for making opening comments. I will put the link in the chat, and that is it for me. If you have any questions, I guess you could put them in the chat. I'll take a look in a minute. That's it. Thanks.
Yes, we'll be monitoring the chat. So if anyone has any questions along the way, just feel free to pop it right in there and we'll get to that. And thank you, Helene. It was great to be able to present at that. So next, we'll be hearing from our core innovation area leads. I'll be advancing the slides for everyone. So just tell me next. The first CIA team we're going to hear from is the safety team. And that's Dan Lasanti and Keith Skilton. So go ahead and take it away.
Well, hello, everybody. As everybody's aware, we don't have any EDC 6 initiatives. So each time we have this meeting, we present on something that we consider innovative and we're advancing into the future. So this time around, Keith's going to speak about Safe Streets for All. And at this time, I'll hand it over to Keith. So Keith, take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. We want to use this platform. It's very timely. We had another presentation plan and kind of at the last minute, Brandy worked with us to kind of switch some slides. So I have a bunch of slides. I'm going to try to talk fast. But we're very excited at the US DOT and Federal Highway about a new program rolling out called the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, or SS4A. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law or bill established a new program, and it's going to provide 5 to 6 billion in grants over the next 5 years. The funding supports regional, local, and tribal initiatives through grants to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. It supports the department's national roadway safety strategy and our goal of 0 deaths and serious injury on our national roadways. Next slide. So the notice of funding opportunity, or how we kind of provide information to people who are eligible to apply, what we refer to as the NOFO, is open. And it's open through September 15th, 2022, and applicants can submit technical questions by August 15th. So as you go through this, if you have any questions, make sure you submit those on or before August 15th. They won't be taking any questions thereafter, but they may be responding to questions after August 15th. And no late applications would be accepted. And all the information, and I'll provide this site in the chat, and I'll be referencing it throughout this presentation. All the information is on transportation.gov/SS4A. And within that website, it also has a link to the NOFO. Next slide. So in addition to tribal governments, eligible recipients generally include the Metropolitan Planning Organizations, or MPOs, any political subdivision of a state which is defined as a unit of government created by and under the authority of a higher level of government. So this can include cities, towns, counties, special districts, and similar units of local government. A transit district, authority, or public benefit corporation may also be eligible as a political subdivision of a state if it was created under state law, including transit authorities operated by political subdivisions of a state. So you'll see in there multi-jurisdictional groups. They are working together with other eligible recipients, and we look at this as a great strategy to help smaller communities that may not have experience with federal grants process or the staff capacity to manage the grants. And then MPOs might also be a natural focus for partnering in their regions. So please note that state DOTs are not eligible recipients, but they can be great partners to provide technical expertise in the planning and implementation process. So there's 3 types of eligible activities which will fund under 2 different types of grants. There's an action plan grant and an implementation grant. I'll talk more about those in just a minute. So next slide. So on this slide, it illustrates the expected grant amounts per the grant type. The key programmatic distinction for rural applicants is a smaller expected minimum project size, which would enable participation with a lower match. So basically in grants.gov, it sets up the parameters, and we're looking at between 200,000 up to 500 million, where the applicants will state their requested amount in the application. And just to note that the government may not award more than 15% of the annual funds, so each year, in a single state, and that doesn't include any amounts that may go to tribal projects. And the 20% match does apply to all applicants. And we did have a question in one of our webinars about if toll credits were eligible as a match, and we're working on that, and there's going to be a Q&A on the SS4A website that will address that. So next slide. So for the first year, or what we're calling round 1, we're planning to prioritize developing new SS4A comprehensive safety action plans. These action plans are foundational in that they will form the basis for identifying and characterizing the safety problem, the process through which to engage and collaborate, and ultimately support the types of safety projects and strategies that applicants then apply for once an action plan is in place through an implementation grant. So the process for developing an action plan is just as important, or perhaps more important. Then the final action plan deliverable itself would also be used to engage multidiscipline teams. So for the round 1 funding, the application process for the SS4A grants will be abbreviated to lower the barrier for developing an action plan, and the application reviews for the application grants will also be less comprehensive. So those with experience in applying for other grant programs like Tiger, Raise, Build, Infra. This will be a lot less work and less time consuming is what we're hoping for. So applicants to develop an action plan will be selected for grant funding based primarily on the safety problem and the availability of funding given the total funding request from the entire application pool. And we're thinking for this first round that 40% of this year's funds will be spent on action plans and associated activities. And then there will also be a secondary consideration, which will be equity. So next slide. So as we can see on the slide, the purpose of the grants of the action plan includes a leadership commitment from a high-ranking official or government body and goal setting to adopt or formally commit to a goal of 0 fatalities and serious injuries and a timeline to reduce those crashes. An established structure, so a planning structure to oversee the process, the safety analysis to identify safety problems, community input through collaboration and engagement with stakeholders, consideration of equity in the action plan. And I'll go through later different links, and we have links to help you get data towards equity information as well. Thoughtful changes to standard practices and policies to prioritize safety, and a data-driven approach to identify and prioritize projects and strategies. And then lastly, an evaluation measure to measure the progress over time and transparency. So you may have, agencies may have some or all of these components in existing plans, and you can combine different plans to build this all up to make it, to provide eligibility. And let's see, I think that's that for that. So next slide, please. So sorry, I can't talk today. Applicants who have an existing plan or plans that align with the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan process can apply for implementation plan grants, but they will be asked to self-certify that their established plan complies. So these include Vision Zero plans, local roadway safety plans, etc. And for implementation grants, applicants must demonstrate one of the following: that they have ownership or maintenance responsibilities over a roadway or network. They can be a multi-jurisdictional entity with safety responsibilities that affect the roadways, or they have an agreement with the state to implement projects and strategies on a state-owned or maintained road within the applicant's jurisdiction. So implementation grants can be used to fund projects and strategies identified in an action plan. So it's not just construction, it could be some pre-construction activities related to further feasibility studies that came out of an action plan. It could be final design, and it could also be to update an existing action plan. So next slide, please. So how easy is it to apply for this? Well, we're hoping it's pretty easy, and we have it set it up through grants.gov. But registration is required, and it can take some time. So next slide. So those familiar with federal grants, we used to have something called a DUNS number, and that DUNS number has now been replaced by what we're calling a unique entity identifier. And if you had a former DUNS number, you can go into SAMS.gov and figure out what your new UEI would be. But if you do not have that registration number, then you would need to register and get that through SAMS.gov. And just to let you know that we're being told now is taking up to about 30 days with the influx of all the people applying for or registering. So next slide. So there are existing tools available to help the grant process. So included, we wanted to bring a note too that the US DOT has a routes program that has both a toolkit and videos to assist applicants with some of the basics associated with the US DOT grant programs. And within there's a link for maximizing award success, navigating the grant program applications. And it essentially walks potential applicants through the NOFO, submitting an application, how to do a good application and writing a compelling story, complying with regulations, communicating impact, demonstrating commitment and accountability, and demonstrating stewardship over federal funds. So it's pretty high level, but it's really good to kind of go through that information as you're planning to prepare your application. Next slide. And again, grants.gov is another great place for applicants. And there is a lot of information on grants.gov. There's trainings available, including a Grants 101 training, and they're an excellent resource. And we always have to note that they are a little outdated, so there may be some older terminologies and references in there. So next slide. So on the SS4A website, there are also optional forms available to assist applicants in developing an application. These forms include guidance on which type of grant to apply for and whether your current action plan program requirements meets the program requirements or more. So next slide. So as a few reminders, as you think about preparing your application, the SS4A program will consider one application per applicant, and applicants may only use one type of grant. Applicants must have an eligible action plan in place to apply for an implementation plan. And on the slide, when you read that the SS4A program will not review or certify substantially similar plans to determine eligibility for implementation grants, that basically means that the US DOT will not be reviewing action plans prior to the submission of applications to determine whether a potential applicant meets the eligibility for an implementation grant. And the forms that I showed you on the other page has a self-certification eligibility worksheet, and that can be used to determine whether your action plan qualifies as a comprehensive safety action plan for the purposes of the NOFO and for applying for an implementation plan grant. So next slide. So the SS4A website will be a valuable resource. It links to all of the other information that I had here today, and it has a lot of information about the grant program and additional information related to the application criteria. There's also recorded webinars, and there's new any information about new webinars that are going rolled out. So I actually have to leave around 10:30 today, but I'll take questions in the chat. And if you have any questions, I can answer them to the best of my ability. Definitely shoot me an email or get in contact with me through your MPOs or the state DOT. And anything I can't answer, I'll refer you to the NOFO's contact person, which is someone at the US DOT right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan and Keith. That was a lot of information. Thanks for telling us about the SS4A grant program, and make sure to spread the word and check out the websites that were linked in the chat. So next up, we have Shivani and Nunzio with the CIA Infrastructure Preservation Team. So go ahead and take it away.
Good morning. My name is Shivani Patel, and I will be providing an update on the Infrastructure Preservation Innovation Area, which includes 4 initiatives. So first is the digital as-builts. Since March, the digital as-builts team met to discuss the initiation of a pilot project. Under Bob Marshall's leadership, the team is currently in the process of selecting a pilot project to design an open roads designer and then to as-built digitally. The as-built survey will need to be accomplished by either the contractor's surveyor or a consultant, and this will provide the team with a digital twin of the project limits. The team has initiated dialogue with the GIS subject matter experts on how to store the digital as-built upon completion. This process will help ensure that digital as-builts will be accessible throughout the department. The staff from EML will be included in subsequent meetings to further assist in this effort. The team is anticipating having the project identified this month. They will also initiate design in the new CAD system once they complete their workspace by connecting pay items to design elements through item types. At the same time, the team will be discussing the nuts and bolts of how to accomplish the as-built survey with staff from the construction division. There are still a lot of moving parts that need to be ironed out before this innovation can move into the demonstration phase. However, the team has reported significant progress. Next slide, please. Recently, a third vendor provided a product demonstration to the team. The e-ticketing team is currently attempting to procure funding for the required cell phone app and the supplementary software. In the next months, the team is hoping to select and procure a vendor and obtain an agreement. And shortly after, they anticipate beginning pilot projects. The team has faced some difficulties in the process of procuring funding, as the app with the accompanying software is considered a hybrid. In addition, the logistics of funding requests and completing appropriate forms and the required documentation has caused some delays, but the team is ready to begin the process of selecting a vendor. Next slide, please. Ultra-high performance thin overlay is included in the Route 42 pavement preservation project. The project is currently out for bid. The Route 42 project will be the first highly polymer modified asphalt project for NJDOT. The NJDOT Pavement Management Unit recently obtained new skid testing equipment. Skid testing by the Pavement Management Unit on high friction surface treatment sections and the alternative enhanced friction overlay sections will also continue this season. In the next months, the team plans to closely monitor and analyze the pros and cons of utilizing this type of asphalt mixture on concrete pavements in New Jersey. Based on the results, the team will advise the department on future development and the use of enhanced friction overlay treatments. Next slide, please. The UHPC for Bridge Preservation and Repair team was invited to and participated in the FHWA-sponsored UHPC Peer Exchange in New York from May 9th to the 11th. The attendees included representatives from FHWA, PennDOT, NYSDOT, NJDOT, DelDOT, Iowa DOT, Iowa Secondary Roads, and WSP. The peer exchange focus was on agency experiences, current and future UHPC applications, specifically UHPC links labs, and best practices. The team completed UHPC overlay testing at the second location, which was NJ 159 westbound over Passaic River Bridge in Montville Township, Morris County on May 26th. The team is currently preparing for the 39th Annual International Bridge Conference to be held July 18th to the 20th, where NJDOT will present a poster on UHPC overlay. In addition, the team is preparing for the first NJDOT UHPC Links Lab applications in construction on the superstructure replacement project, River Road over Route 287 Bridge in Piscataway Township, Somerset County. In the next month, the team anticipates continuing the preparation efforts for the UHPC Links Lab applications, as well as completing and analyzing the UHPC overlay testing data. They also hope to establish baseline from 2022 testing. The team is also seeking and scoping additional UHPC applications for future projects where opportunities are available. Next slide. Any questions?
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Shivani. Thank you. And if anyone has questions, you can pop them in the chat and we'll keep monitoring that. So next up, we have the CIA team organizational support and improvement, and we have Zenobia Fields and Brian Goodson.
Okay, good morning. So our first innovation that we're looking at is strategic workforce development. With strategic workforce development, from our last meeting with the Let's Go workshop, we were focusing on succession planning efforts. We are planning to meet with our working group again a week from today at 10 a.m. We're going to have a Teams meeting. We're going to look to advance some of the actions that we identified in that planning process. So first, we're starting with formulating a department-wide mentorship program, working with HR and all the other units within the department, looking at what are the needs in terms of emerging skill sets, then talk about some of the partnerships we're doing there. So with emerging skill sets, even though the first bullet, we're really focusing on the department, We are looking to talk with emerging skill sets with our other partners. So we're talking with the MPOs, some of the locals, ACEC to inform some of those emerging skill sets. So that's definitely going to be a broader conversation. We are continuing to do industry association outreach. Vicky, our director of civil rights, she has already started with this effort. We're looking forward to the presentation today, where we're going to hear from some of these workforce development organizations and also the unions, because one of the interests in civil rights in terms of strategic workforce development, making sure with our training program that there are going to be positions available, whether it's with the departments or in partnerships with the unions. We're going to be continuing with college and university outreach. So looking forward to working with Brandy and also Amanda on the outreach that they've already started and really leveraging those partnerships. So again, we're going to hear from Hudson County Community College. So not just looking at the universities, but also the community colleges and looking at all skill levels, whether we're talking about trade schools as well. And going on to our next innovation on the next slide. Looking at public, virtual public involvement. So with this one, we were really looking to advance with the peer exchange this summer, but a part of what you heard with Keith is that the FHWA, of course, and just like we are, focusing on really leveraging the opportunities with the bipartisan infrastructure law. So we won't be able to proceed with a peer exchange this summer, but we are looking to do something on a smaller scale. We already had a discussion with the MPOs and other partnerships where there was a presentation through STIC, but part of our question going out to the group, is there something else that we need to re-engage again to talk about? Mainly really talking about interactive engagement tools. I know that we've already had many conversations about what we've had to do during COVID to talk about the remote interactive engagement tools, but do we want to go back to that again and showcase other opportunities? And also make sure that when we're talking about this perspective, that it's not just our traditional transportation partners talking to each other, like the MPO, FHWA, but we're engaging some of our locals and the people that we're reaching out when we do community outreach to get their perspectives, meaning, well, are the mechanisms and the tools that we're using, are they actually effective? So we're looking to continue that conversation. So I'm going to keep this brief because we are definitely looking forward to 3 presentations today.
Okay, thank you, Zenobia. And again, if anyone has any questions about anything Zenobia covered, just put them in the chat and we'll make sure to get to them. Okay, next up, we have our mobility and operations team, and we have Sue Catlett and Ake Pomsavath, sorry.
Good morning. Okay, this one's mine. Just checking. Good morning. In our area, we can be doing a lot of work that may not appear as we do quarterly reports, and that's kind of the situation with this activity, the computer-aided dispatch. The computer-aided dispatch is something that is owned by the state police, and they have it, they've installed it, they're working on it, and we've had our discussions with them as far as what we want to get out of it and how we feel it can help us and help everybody actually. The computer-aided dispatch, what we hope to have occur with it is get information earlier regarding a crash on the highway, a spill, or something like that, that would allow us to react earlier so that everything else is earlier. We notify earlier, we can react earlier, we can clear it up earlier, and we can get the highway back to normal operation earlier. Everything's better if you can do it earlier. At the present time, as I said, they have it. They're working on it. We were close to getting our foot in the door with them, but they decided they want a little more time working with their system and making some adjustments to their systems before they allow us into the door. So right now it's you know, unfortunately for us, we're not quite ready to get going, but we are all set and anxious to start. So, Ake, you're up next.
Thank you, Sue, for the update. Next slide, Brandy. I will provide an update for crowdsourcing for advancing operations. The project is currently going well, currently at the assessment stage. It is also complementary, has nexus to the traffic incident management program, especially notifying the truck drivers of incidents and long delays. Good news case example of reporting incident information to vehicle alert system for truck drivers to improve their travel time reliability. NJDOT is currently assessing the performance of the notification system and looking at the different various metrics of service on data sharing, some impacts, and effectiveness on speed of the alert message for the truck drivers. And this concludes our update for the mobility ops team.
Thank you, Ake and Sue. And I had the pleasure of meeting with Sal last Friday and learning about all the cool things that are happening in mobility. So thanks. And we have up next is our feature presentation. And this is brought to you by our Organizational Support and Improvement CIA team. We have Lori Margolin, who is Vice President of the Hudson County Community College, and we'll be talking about how New Jersey's community colleges can help NJDOT meet their workforce development goals. We also have Nick Toth, who is Director of the Office of Apprenticeship from the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and we'll be talking about New Jersey's prioritization of apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. And finally, we have Greg Lalevee, who is a business manager with the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 825. He will go over the IUOE apprenticeship program and outreach to VOTEC schools. And I'll be advancing the slides for all of you, so just tell me next when you're ready, or if I haven't done so already. And with that, take it away, Lori.
Thank you, Brandy. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to present this morning. I am very impressed with the efficiency of your meeting. This is run like ahead of schedule, so I will try to follow suit in that regard. So I'm going to jump right into it. Next slide. Just a little bit about Hudson County Community College, so you're oriented to where we are. We are a comprehensive open enrollment urban college just minutes from Manhattan with our main campus in Jersey City. We serve over 17,000 credit and non-credit students each year. Excuse me, and we are in one of the most densely populated and ethnically diverse areas of the country. We have received many awards and recognitions for our work. I presented here a few that we received for our work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The mission of the college is to provide its diverse communities with inclusive, high-quality educational programs and services that promote student success and upward social and economic mobility. And in support of the mission, our strategic plan is laser focused on student success and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Continuing Education and Workforce Development Division, which I am responsible for, is a comprehensive provider of educational programs ranging from kind of fun classes, culinary, exercise classes, to skill building classes, infographics, Excel, to those that result in certifications, project management, patient care technician, and a variety of others. We also provide training for local area businesses, both in basic skills and customized training. And listed here a few of the programs that we have, which span many of the sectors. Next slide. So we take the community in our name very seriously, and we look to work with employers as well as residents. Generally, we work with employers who are maybe having trouble hiring, finding qualified candidates, or need training of some sort for their incumbent workers. And some ways that we could work together when we sit with employers, it's helpful for us to have employers identify hard to fill roles. We can do this either individually, or we have several employer advisory boards where we talk about this with employers, say in the tech and finance area or construction area. We have access to a lot of labor market information, but we always like to hear from employers, boots on the ground, which positions and occupations are where you're looking to either stay the same or grow over the next 5-year period. And, you know, we all know it's hard to reject because things happen that we don't count on, but to the best that you can do that, we'd like to do that. And then to give us information about job responsibilities and required credentials, because that gets us thinking about how we can work with you. So what we can do, we can build robust training programs which include experiential learning and create pathways for students. So we feel very strongly that students should have the knowledge that they need to do the job, but also to have a pathway, whether they want to go on to continue their education or grow in their career, to set them up in the right way. So as an example, we have an engineer apprenticeship program with an architectural millwork firm. They had difficulty identifying candidates with the right skills. And so that apprenticeship was the right fit for them because they could learn and grow with the program. We also work with an employer who was looking to hire a good number of people for a new project and needed training in computer systems testing. You know, we at the college have a lot of that expertise. We built a customized program for them and trained many of their incumbent workers and new workers so that they would be in a position to handle this new responsibility. So we're very flexible on that. Those are just two examples of how we work with employers. We have access to a diverse pool of candidates who could potentially be a good fit. We have our students, and in our workforce programs, we regularly recruit individuals who were either unemployed or underemployed. We could also work with you to identify short-term solutions while we build the pipeline. So depending on what the program is, it may take a couple of months to maybe a year, depending on what it is that you want and how complex it is and a number of other factors. We are also partnering with the Centers for Workforce Innovation. So I don't know how many people are familiar with the Centers for Workforce Innovation, but if you're not, next slide. It's part of the New Jersey Pathways to Career Opportunities program, and it's a joint venture between the New Jersey Community College Consortium and NJBIA, the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. And the purpose of these centers are to expand pathways. I'm going to talk about construction here, creating new partnerships. So there are partners from education, from employers, associations. As part of this initiative, we're looking at building those pathways from K-12 through 4-year colleges and universities and expanding dual education program opportunities. The Construction Center is just one of 10 that was launched this year, and Hudson is the administrative lead for the Construction Center, and our partner is Rowan College of South Jersey. We're also the administrative lead for the Supply Chain and Logistics Center, along with Union County College, Rowan College at Burlington, and Salem County Community College. Next slide. So here's a little bit about the program I think that we were initially asked to talk about, and that we're really proud to be the education partner for the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, on the Earn and Learn program, which is a dual education program for apprentices who simultaneously complete an associate degree along with the apprenticeship program. So we have an agreement with Local 825 to award apprentices up to 30 credits of a 60 credit degree for on-the-job training. So cuts in half the amount of time, number of credits that they need to get an associate degree. We also work with them to develop a new concentration within the degree major, technical studies, tailored to what Local 825 and their signatory employers require of the members. It includes gen ed courses as well as specialized courses in the major. All the classes are delivered virtually, so it makes it easy for anyone to log in anywhere in the state to the classes. We began this past spring, so they finished their first semester with 30 students. They will take approximately 6 credits each semester, fall and spring, and they'll graduate in 5 semesters. Students incur no debt due to funding from Local 825 and the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development. The first 18 months of the program is funded by the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the NJ Place 2.0 grant, which I'm sure Nick will talk about. And Hudson County Community College was the only community college in New Jersey that was a partner on this grant when it was awarded. So we're really proud of the innovation and our work with our partner like Local 825, which it's just been a fabulous experience working with them, and we're looking forward to more great things to come. With that, I just want to thank you, and I have my contact information here if anybody wants to follow up.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And next up, we have Nick.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. Brandy, I just want to give you a heads up. The deck I'm working off has 2 other slides. Is it possible maybe towards the end just to do a share on my end for those 2 slides?
I'm totally fine with that.
Okay, perfect. All right, next slide, please. Okay, just to give everyone a little background, back in March of 2008, the Murphy administration announced the development of the first Office of Apprenticeship in New Jersey, and we were tasked with creating the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network. Next slide. And some of the, many of our guiding principles are really to, focus on working on partnerships with our friends over at United States Department of Labor to serve as a one-stop shop for employers, non-for-profit, secondary and post-secondary institutions interested in developing apprenticeship programs. I want to say at the onset of this presentation that when we talk about apprenticeship in New Jersey, what we're really talking about is registered apprenticeship, and that is a very formal system that the United States Department of Labor has been running for over 80 years. It was born out of a piece of New Deal legislation and is often referred to in our field as, one of the gold standards for workforce development. So naturally, developing this office and developing the apprenticeship network, we're focused on expanding pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship opportunities in the state that are focused in high growth sectors. So I know that a lot of people, when you hear apprenticeship, you think construction and building trades, and we acknowledge that, the unions in that sector have really done an incredible job deploying this model over the years. But we really want to take this successful model and adapt it to areas that are high growth and outside of the construction, or not only in the construction field, but outside as well. We've done a lot of work in healthcare over the years, advanced manufacturing, information technology. So one of the other challenges in developing apprenticeship programs is oftentimes there's no connectivity between educational institutions, the employer, and maybe an advocacy organization. as an office, we really try to be the glue to help pull that all together, in the hopes of developing pathways that lead to upward mobility and economically sustainable wages. In doing so, in all of our grant programs, we have a focus on diversity and inclusion in apprenticeship programs. So we want to make sure that, when the state puts money out there, that, we're being mindful of some of the historical barriers that other groups have faced throughout history, and want to make sure that we use these programs as a way not only to assist employers with getting the talent that they need, but also providing entry points for everyone, to get their foot in the door into a career. And then finally, all of our grants have language in them that is focused on removing economic barriers to training and upskilling. In many cases in the workforce development world, things like transportation, childcare, sometimes rent, someone being able to get their license back, are inhibiting factors for accessing training opportunities. And so when we give out grants through our grant portfolio, we essentially encourage our partners to factor that into their approach. This way, those barriers are not stopping someone from gaining access to a training opportunity. Next slide, please. So the flagship program that we developed in the first year of the creation of this office is called Growing Apprenticeships in Non-Traditional Sectors, or GAINS. It's kind of self-explanatory in the title. We are taking apprenticeship and we want to put it in sort of non-construction, non-building trades areas, and focus on high growth sectors. Again, also having a focus on making sure that we're inclusive with the the people that we're targeting with these grant funds. Next slide. So just to give an example of some of the sectors that we've done a lot of work in, healthcare being the top one, advanced manufacturing, biopharma. We've had some really interesting, cool programs. One I always love to talk about is the apprenticeship program at the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab down on Route 1. And, they're working on fusion technology that may, completely change the way that we produce energy in the world. It's pretty heavy stuff. And if they crack the code, it'll be in part due to the contributions of the apprentices that are actually working on repairing and maintaining their reactor. So again, just hitting home the idea that apprenticeship is not just construction and building trades. The GAINS program is really targeted at getting to the core of that misconception. Next slide, please. So the second program that we came out with is called Pre-Apprenticeship and Career Education, or PACE. In workforce development, we often talk about building pipelines. In apprenticeship, that pipeline is very clearly defined. There's pre-apprenticeship. We're taking people that might not be job ready, may not have the requisite skills to become an apprentice, putting them through training and then getting them placed into an apprenticeship or the workforce or a higher level training opportunity. Again, focus on underrepresented and disadvantaged populations and removing barriers to upskilling by supporting funding for supportive services. Next slide, please. This is somewhat duplicitous, but you'll start to see that there's a pattern here. Again, focusing the strategy on non-traditional sectors that we view are highest growth in the state and probably more broadly throughout the nation. Next slide. I'm trying to fire through here because I know that I'm technically only supposed to have about 10 minutes, but I think we're making progress. A pre-apprenticeship program, has some key elements to it. And I know that for many of you, this is probably a fairly new concept. Maybe you've heard of pre-apprenticeship, maybe you haven't, but there is not a universal definition of pre-apprenticeship. When we designed this grant program, we drew from essentially a policy position paper that was issued by the United States Department of Labor back in, I think, 2015, outlining what the key elements of a quality pre-apprenticeship program was. That being, again, improved training and curriculum, strategies for long-term success, access to the appropriate supportive services, meaningful hands-on training that doesn't displace employees, facilitated entry and articulation, and also, one that's not on here is making sure that these pre-apprenticeship training opportunities have some occupational specific training, even if it's something as simple as, the pre-apprentice shadowing someone that works at a manufacturing facility for a day or two just to get a sense of what the work is like. We want to make sure that we're encouraging curiosity among folks that are just starting in their career or changing their career and moving to a new field. Next slide, please. So the NJ Place 2.0 program, which you heard before from Lori, and I'm sure you'll hear from Greg following me, is a program that we revamped. It was designed many years ago to do credit evaluations for registered apprenticeship programs. We thought this was a good idea, but we thought we could improve on it. So when we developed NJ Place 2.0, we tried to push the concept of what's called a degree apprenticeship. So for those of you that went to college, I started at a community college. If you would have told me that I could have taken what would have been essentially a credit internship and get paid for it at the same time while I was a broke college student, I would have signed up, immediately. And this degree apprenticeship program does exactly that, where we're encouraging employers to come to the table, provide some training, some apprenticeship training while that individual is matriculating and getting college credit for that on-the-job learning. And we think it's a great idea. And the partnership between Hudson, Local 825, and also they weren't mentioned before, but Thomas Edison University is really good on the other end of this grant, where we also incorporate prior learning assessments for people that have already completed an apprenticeship program. So if you're, let's say you completed an electrician apprenticeship program and now you've decided that you want to go and get a 2 or 4 year degree, institutions of higher ed like Thomas Edison will review the work experience that you have and then assign a credit value to that. This way it cuts down the amount of time it takes for you to achieve your degree. So we're really excited about this program. And then next slide, I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see if that works.
Okay, I stopped sharing, so you should be good. And you could take a beat, Nick. We're way ahead of schedule, so.
Okay. Yeah, those of you who actually know me, you know that I'm not known for my brevity, so I'll definitely be able to. I'll slow it down a little bit. And generally speaking, these are high level reviews of these programs. Obviously, I could easily get into a half an hour discussion on any one of these, but I think it's important for the group on this call to just be aware that they're out there and to know where to go to learn more. The Murphy administration has invested, unprecedented amounts of money in the registered apprenticeship system since the inception of this office. And if you look at other states, there are really no other states that are putting this many state resources behind it. And that's a perfect segue into the NJ Build program, which I think is probably for this group the most relevant when we start talking about public works, when we start talking about infrastructure, any public contracting work that the Department of Transportation does. This program is, in my view, the lowest hanging fruit from a workforce development funding opportunity there is in the state. The first program that we have is called Helmets to Hard Hats, and it's focused on getting veterans into the construction and building trades and into, more specifically, into a registered apprenticeship program. The NJ Build Fund is actually funded through a 0.5% essentially fee for public works contracts above $1 million. So if it's a $2 million contract, that would translate into, I guess, $100,000 in revenue in this fund. And this fund tends to grow. I'm not sure if my math is right there. Maybe it's 10 grand. I'll get the calculator out later. But this fund is regularly replenished from public works that occur in the state. And I think it's safe to assume that this will likely grow significantly as more of these infrastructure and public works projects come online. So again, if there are folks out there that work with contractors on any sort of public work or project transportation project in the state, And there are contractors out there that want to do good by their workforce and hire veterans. Our Helmets to Hard Hats grant is a really great opportunity for them to look into. Next slide, please. Oh, I guess I'll have to advance this one. There we go. The second grant that we have is called Women and Minority Groups in the Construction Trades. And same concept, but with women and minorities. This program was designed through statute, or the NJ Build program itself was designed through statute, really to help diversify the construction and building trades in New Jersey. And one of the best ways to diversify your workforce, again, is using apprenticeship programs to source talent, to train them. And we've done some really great work, actually in Hudson County and in a few other areas of the state, to really increase the number of women and minority groups in the construction and building trades. This is probably the most popular grant in the NJ Build portfolio. So again, if there's anyone that is interested in learning in greater detail, what it means to apply to the NJ Build grants and what the timeline for release of notice of grant opportunities is, I'll have my contact information at the end of the presentation. But again, you're seeing the pattern of all of these programs being centered around apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship opportunities. And then finally, I'm going to actually go back to that slide. I'm going to just make one other plug here. So for those of you that do work with contractors, there is a public works contractor registration law that was passed about 2.5 years, and it was recently amended. I'm not going to, I hate reading off of slides, but I'll give you the gist of it. It's pretty much everything it says here. If you're a contractor that requires a public works certification to do public work and to bid on public work, and you employ workers that are covered under the Prevailing Wage Act, and required to pay the prevailing wage, you are required by this law to participate in a registered apprenticeship program. So this is really shaking things up in the public works, construction and building trades area. But really the thought process here is that, public works is not necessarily it's a right. It's not a right. It's a privilege. We want to make sure that when we're spending state dollars and spending state resources, that we're doing it in a way that maximizes the benefit to New Jersey residents. And this law was essentially designed for that. Now, what does this all mean? That means that if DOT is going out to contract for work on all these various projects, their contractor is going to have to comply with this law. So I think it's important, if DOT or anyone gets questions on this, to send them to us, because not only can we help provide answers on how to comply with that law, but we can also talk about the resources that we have available. If a contractor is going to go ahead and develop an apprenticeship program, we can help them pay for it. We can help offset a portion of their wage through on-the-job learning support, or we can take care of any certifications and classroom learning costs associated with the program. There's really we're flush with resources, and I just think it's important for folks to be aware that this law is out there, because down the road, when, again, infrastructure really starts taking hold, you're probably going to get a lot of calls and questions on this. So I wanted to plug that. And then finally, just as a snapshot, New Jersey currently has over 7,600 active apprentices in over 1,000 registered apprenticeship programs. That's a 77% increase in registered apprenticeship programs since the governor took office, January of 2018. Hired over 10,000 new apprentices during that period, issued over 5,400 certificates of completion. And the USDOL certificates that are issued at the end of these, by the way, are transportable certifications. So if someone gets one in New Jersey, it's worth the same thing in New Jersey as it's worth in California. So it is really a great credential. We've doubled the number of women in registered apprenticeship programs, which we're particularly proud of. A lot of that has come through our strategic investments in the healthcare sector. And we're at almost an 8 or 9 year high in terms of the number of active apprentices in the state. That's moving average, so that accounts for entrances and exits, and that's a 13% increase in net apprentices since the governor took office. It was actually much higher. Naturally, you would imagine COVID had a play here, but that's the gist of it. I'm happy if we do have time, if anybody has any questions, or if you want to wait until either after or offline. This is my contact information up top. James is our Chief of Contracts and Programs, so he's all things grants. If you have any grant specific questions, he's the guy to go to. Dawn Lynch is our Chief of Employer Engagement. Her unit focuses on working with employers that are interested in developing apprenticeship programs and providing technical assistance for the development of those, and then the eventual connection to United States Department of Labor to get the program registered. And then John is our Chief of Policy and Evaluation. He works on some of our federal grants that we have, and is really kind of our data guru when it comes to reporting on the effect of our programs, how many people we're serving in which locations, from what populations and sectors and all that good stuff. So that's my ballpark 15-minute elevator pitch on why I think apprenticeship is such a great tool, and I thank you again for having me today.
Nick, thank you so much. And once you stop sharing, I'll share again. And then if you want, I think it'd be good if you pop your email in the chat so people can reach out if they have any questions, because that was a lot of information. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share. And bear with me here. Okay, everybody can see that. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Greg Lalevee from the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. So take it away, Greg.
Thanks, Brandy, and good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here and participate in this forum. Operating engineers, we are 7,500 men and women. We're known primarily as heavy equipment operators. We like to say, we affect every part of your life. We're the heavy equipment operators you see building the roads, the bridges, the buildings, the electrical grid, the water and gas distribution networks, and all the other critical infrastructure that we see as we drive around this state of ours. But as we took a look forward, Lori had mentioned the partnership that we have with Hudson. And to give you an illustration of what that looks like, if you'd flip to the next slide, Brandy, this is kind of the why. These are two crane cabs. On the right, what you would see is something that I would have learned in 30 something years ago. But it's a system of the levers actuate clutches. There's brakes on the floor. The loads on the cranes were mostly live. The air gauge that you see in the top left of the cab, the clutches were thrown by air over the spindles, turned whichever drum, whether it was the boom hoist, whether it was the load hoist, whether it was the tracks, but all done, with very little information there. And then when you flip over to the left, you see something a little more modern looking. There are no brakes per se. The pedals that you see on the floor are the throttle. The two black pedals actuate the tracks to move. This is a crawler machine, the crawler back and forth. You see joysticks instead of pedals. Those joysticks have buttons to change things around. And then you see a number of screens coming back, one with a QWERTY keyboard on it. So information going back and forth. And this information, depending on the crane, depending on the application, could be giving the operator a whole slew of information. It could be the ground pressure, the pump pressure that's on the hydraulic pumps for the cranes, might be the height of the load, the distance of the load from the center of the crane, which is how the capacity is engineered when these things are built. The wind speed, if the booms are high enough, there's usually anemometers in the top. So there's a whole bunch of information that comes back at the operator, which is why, we thought we had to change the way we do things. So if you look at the next slide, really what we had to do was assess what the market needs were. We've heard a couple mentions of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We're going to see some enhanced spending in our roads, in our bridges, The Portal Bridge is just breaking ground now, so we're looking forward to that project. We're also hoping to dig a tunnel under the Hudson River to expand our train capacity. Future and current energy projects. Back in the Obama administration, it was recognized that the cast iron gas network was starting to age out. Between New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, we house 50% of the cast iron gas infrastructure in those 4 states. So we've done a lot of work over the last few years. There's still a lot left to do in that sector. Then, of course, the discussion around offshore wind, where we see the port rising in South Jersey already, how to meet our future energy needs. And then the bipartisan infrastructure bill also put a large focus on clean water. Here in New Jersey, we're the last state that uses combined sewer overflows. So we have a lot of utilities putting together their long-term control plan, which will help them access money there. Bottom line is we're talking about the potential for a lot of work, a lot of technology changes along the way. And how do we meet that? And then when we look at the technology that's in the equipment, there's all the information that you saw coming back at an operator. You start to think about things like artificial intelligence. There's operator assist. There's full robotic control. Many of the excavating machines have GPS controls on them, which is simply, if you think about a bulldozer in operation, an operator can flip the switch and the GPS dozer will find the grade on its own. The operator doesn't even have to hit the blade controls. Now, why have the operator? Well, if you need to take 2 feet of dirt out, the blade's not going to drop 2 feet and work efficiently. So you need somebody who's going to get you close to what the finish line is, and then the GPS takes over and does all of the fine work. But when we put all these things together, we saw the need to upskill our members in a serious way. And that's both transitioning our current members and then bringing in new members who were taught a different skill set and a different way. So we went along the road of becoming a technical college. We've been accredited by the Council of Occupational Education. We've been, very happy that near the beginning of our journey, we met Lori and the team at Hudson, and they've been great partners the whole way through, because we saw this, while we've gotten our accreditation and our licensing, we saw this very much as a Venn diagram. There's a lot of things that we do well out in the field, teaching the hands-on. We didn't really have an interest to build buildings and classrooms. So we're out there looking for partners who do that part well and not necessarily be able to walk into the space that we have. And that also led us to believe that the real partnerships are with the state VOTECs. So many of them have construction clusters, but not necessarily in the heavy equipment operating space where this technology goes. And we all know young people, they're on their gaming devices every day. So we see this as a natural transition, something that there would be an aptitude and an appetite for people to come into. So we've begun taking a hard look at the VOTECs. We hired our own in-house academic on May the 9th, and she's starting to put different curricula together to enhance our partnerships with the community college network, and to enhance and start to build our partnerships with the VOTEC schools. And we have some pretty good momentum there. I sit on the board of my home county's VOTEC. I have a daughter who's a guidance counselor in another VOTEC. And then there are 2 VOTECs in the state that do have heavy equipment operator programs. So we believe that the journey to building these partnerships is pretty short, because many of the VOTECs and their construction clusters are already taking care of the classroom safety trainings and things of that sort. So we're around looking for partners in this. The other good part of it is going to be in more of an academic institution was one of the things that Nick highlighted. Barriers to entry have classically been things like transportation and childcare. And we saw this as opening up the doors into grant programs that would help people with transportation costs, because the reality is that at our training center in South Brunswick, you really have to get there to get your hands onto the machines, to be around the longtime instructors who can teach the skills and the methods. That the simulators can only get you but so far in this day and age. So, but in the meantime, if you flip to the next slide, Brandy, and you can be 1 second, go right through it. You know, we continue to teach our regular apprenticeship program. And what you see here is this is the local 825 training center, 61 acres. Most people have driven past it on the turnpike near exit 8A. We have another 51-acre training center in lower New York State, because local 825 operates in 5 counties of the Hudson Valley. We have 61, we have 120 pieces of equipment. So we spend a lot of money. We spend about $1.5 million to $2 million a year in training. The last slide that you just saw was our Internationals Training Center in Crosby, Texas. This is a 300-acre facility. Our members go online, find a class that interests them. They sign up. They have to be approved locally, because classes, just as we do home here, come in, you know, beginner, intermediate, advanced level. So locally they need to be approved. But you know, what you see on this campus on the far left, what looks like a hotel pretty much is. It's 225 dorm rooms. So the students at no expense get flown to Houston. The training center is in Crosby, just outside. They stay on campus. They're fed, they're housed, they do their classes, and then they come home. The next slide here is how we start to introduce people into the world of operating heavy equipment. And again, you see nothing but technology. This is the local 825 simulator room. And as you go around the room, on the left is a crane simulator, which will do all kinds of cranes, crawler cranes, truck cranes, tower cranes, all scenarios, steel, concrete, duty cycle work. It'll also do foundation drill work. We can change the nature of the work. We can change the environments. We can add rain, wind, snow. Along the back, there is every piece of dirt equipment you could think of, bulldozers, loaders, excavators, haul trucks. There's different scenarios that are set up in each one of these machines, so it mimics real life the best that it can. So it builds the muscle memory so that when students go out in the field, they transition easily. In the front on the right are simulators for backhoes that you see doing our utility work every day. And then behind the backhoes, and we'll zoom in on the next slide, we also engage in virtual reality, this being a concrete pump. We also have VR for welding. So again, you see nothing but technology here. And we feel like the student of the day, the apprentice of the day, really needs to be more of a technologist, somebody who understands computers, computer programming, and doesn't have a phobia to it. On the next slide, you'll see this is our field, a snapshot of our field at work. What our instructors do for our apprentices is they set up the real life scenarios. We'll set up highway stations, municipal roads, utilities, building pads. We've got a road that has hidden utilities in it. We've got PVC buried that's charged to 60 PSI, which is what the gas distribution system is pressurized at, so that if a student makes a mistake, they know what they're getting into. But it's all about locating the utilities and working safely. We put them in all kinds of different scenarios. You know, for the drills, we do the foundation drilling like you see under buildings and bridges. And then something that we're very proud of as we flip to the next slide is we have a very comprehensive milling and paving program that goes on every winter, because paving is weather sensitive. We can bring the best of the best in journey worker in to teach, and we go through the pavers. And as you go through the next 2 slides, we go through the rollers. We set up on and off ramps, main line, municipal settings, the different intersections, whether it's a cross street, a T intersection, a cul-de-sac. We put our apprentices in any and every kind of real life scenario to build their skills. We bring in industry experts and equipment manufacturers. The past several years, we've had Wirtgen come in and Sakai come in. They go through their intelligent compaction machines and whatever the new technology may also be on their pavement profilers and on their paving machines. So that's a look at what we do at 825. And really, I want to finish with two thoughts. One being that we would love to have any group from DOT come to our training center for a tour and a visit. The cautionary word is that's mostly done during the winter because we average 150 to 200 students per day, and you would really get a flavor for what it is we see and do. The other thing, that the last thought that I would leave you with, is in a world where everything is, we hear so much about businesses not being able to get people and the great resignation and whatever other people may call it. Traditionally, when we advertise for apprentices, we have a line that has formed a week ahead of time, usually has 600 people in it waiting for 250 applications. With the new Earn and Learn program with Hudson, we set up a virtual application online. We took 250 applications, and when we opened the portal, we had to shut it in 22 minutes because we were already over 300 applications and rising. So we know we have something here that people will gravitate to, and having partners like the DOL and Hudson infuse expertise and some dollars and really a great collaboration. We just think we're onto something good here. So that's a brief overview of what we do at 825. I'm happy to take anybody's questions, or I'll leave my email in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Greg. And if anyone has questions, again, put them in the chat. And Greg, feel free to pop your contact information there. And wow, what great presentation. So let's just take a moment to say thank you to everyone for coming to our meeting today and presenting on all the excellent things that are happening around the state. So thank you. Virtual applause to Greg, Nick, and Lori. And next up, we do have some quick reminders and announcements before we adjourn. But the first thing I want to do is turn it over to Zenobia to give us an update on the mileage-based user fee pilot program. So Zenobia, take it away.
Thank you, Brandy. We are initiating with the Eastern Transportation Coalition another pilot. Some of you already participated in our phase 3 pilot, where we were really focusing on just transportation stakeholders, looking at an alternative approach. So if we go to the next slide, we're looking at phase 4. So just a reminder of what we're looking at in the pilot. Right now, our transportation system, our transportation trust fund, is funded by the fuel tax, what we pay at the pump. So this pilot, working with the coalition, is looking at an alternative approach. So as we're looking at cars are becoming more fuel efficient, or they're not using gas at all, what can we look at for a funding approach to maintaining our transportation system? So in the next slide, what we're looking at with the pilot is more of you pay for what you use in terms of what you're driving. So we're looking for volunteers, and this time we're going with the general public. Last time we used about 100 participants. This time we're looking at 400 participants, and we're really focusing on the general public to join our pilot. So on the next slide, what we're looking to do is understand diverse voices, so not just our transportation stakeholders, but as I mentioned, the general public, what they feel about this method. So there's different ways you can enroll. You can use telematics if you have a newer vehicle, where you get your information that way. In most cases, it's going to be a little dongle that's going to plug into your vehicle just to monitor how many miles you drive. It doesn't have to be GPS. You can elect not to do that. But we get feedback. You're going to get a statement that basically describes what you're using and what that cost would be if we're thinking about an alternative fuel tax. And we have privacy protections in place. It's not going to be Big Brother watching. So if you are interested or you feel that you are interested, please sign up. The pilot is open now. If you go to the next slide. We'll have the landing page that explains how you enroll, that little dongle you can insert into your vehicle. You're just going to drive as you normally do. Then you return the information. It's very easy. And the last slide. This is the website where you can find more information. We have a assistance number that's manned, or staff rather, excuse me, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. if you have any questions. And we also have an email. So any questions? Looking for about 400 volunteers. So please let us know.
Okay, and Zenobia, if you want to pop that email in the chat just so people can grab it and sign up if they want to participate in the pilot. Thank you so much. Okay, and back to our reminders and announcements. As always, don't forget about our tech transfer website and the dedicated STIC page where you can find all of our STIC business articles and meeting recordings and all the summaries from the meetings. Putting New Jersey STIC in the search engine, any search engine will get you there too. And next up, we have a reminder about the New Jersey STIC Innovative Initiative Survey. It was sent via email on June 8th and responses are due back by July 15th. Please share these surveys with your networks. The target audiences are local public agencies, NPOs, and other transportation professionals. The survey results will be presented at a future New Jersey STIC meeting, and innovative practices will be spotlighted through communications using the tech transfer program we have here at NJDOT. And next, I'm happy to announce that we have prepared a nomination for a 2022 STIC Excellence Award. The award program was created to recognize a STIC that has made significant impact towards fostering a strong culture for innovation, and we have a lot to talk about here in New Jersey. We noted the creation of the new CIA team, the creation of my position as Innovation Coordinator, the New Jersey STIC Communications Plan, the Let's Go Innovation Workshop, which is piloted by New Jersey, the EDC 6 New Jersey Caucus, New Jersey's highlight at the National STIC Network that Helene had spoke about, that happened a couple weeks ago, and more. So nominations are due July 1st. So we'll be circulating this nomination for signature and endorsement very soon. So keep an eye out. We also still have STIC incentive funding on the table from fiscal year 2022, and funding requests are due in August. So just a reminder to please push these grant opportunities through your networks. Local public agencies are eligible to apply. The link here has all the resources you need to get started. The website explains what the program is, the selection criteria, eligible projects, and how to apply. And we do have a guidance document for how the funding is authorized, reporting requirements, and how to close a project out, which we'll provide to you if and when you are selected. And finally, I'm going to call up Sal Cohen to say a few words about one of our STIC network members, Sue Catlett, who is, after 39 years of service, retiring as of July 1st. So Sal?
Brandy, thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize an incredible individual. When I joined the department nearly 11 years ago, she was there spinning about as many plates as she does today. And even as she walks out the door, while I hope she takes some of those plates with her because her cubicle is often a mess, it is a pleasure to have worked with her this many years. She has always been, I get a chat from her that says, "Ugh, I knew she wouldn't have liked this, but we're doing it anyhow, Sue Catlett, so just deal with it for the next 30 seconds. You are an inspiration to me. You always have been. You've supported me and my team, as well as many other people here in the department I think it goes without saying that this is a tremendous loss for the department, but we do wish you well. For those of you that are attending the event next week, we look forward to seeing you there. But I did want to say thank you for all of the help that you've given us, that you've given the STIC itself for helping us put forth New Jersey's first Accelerated Innovation Deployment Grant, deploying New Jersey's first mobile weather sensor and camera program, for putting together New Jersey's first commercial vehicle alerting system. Sue Catley, you have been behind so many firsts here in New Jersey, and I'm happy to be the first one to say congratulations on your retirement again in this forum, and we wish you well.
Okay, thank you, Sal, and congratulations, Sue. You know, we all wish you a happy and healthy retirement. So that's it for me. Mike or Amanda, do you have any last words?
Yeah, real quick, Brandy. I just wanted to jump in and just say that there was a question for Greg in the chat, but he did address that in the chat. And David Amon of our tech transfer team with Rutgers, he posted links to some really in-depth and interesting interviews that he has conducted with all of our speakers. So I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to that. If you want any more information about their initiatives, please check out those links that he posted. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and congratulations for Sue. I feel like you just got here in the STIC, but now you're leaving us and we will miss you. So that's it for me. Mike?
Yeah, Sal, Amanda, we all, I'm sure, would like to echo those same sentiments. Sue, we wish you the best. God bless you and good luck in your future endeavors. Brandy, Amanda, and Helene, you've outdone yourself. And this was a fantastic meeting. I'd like to thank our TIA team leaders for their involvement. I'd also like to acknowledge Shivani joining the team and doing her updates as a CIA team leader. And last but not least, I want to thank Lori, Nick, and Greg Lalevee for their presentations. So once again, everybody, thank you for your participation. Thank you for your support, and have a very enjoyable summer. Thanks.
Okay, and again, thank you all so much for your participation today. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate with you in the future. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Good job, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.